This video is really just meant for me to like close a chapter on part of my gaming history, I guess, because for most of you who don't know, you probably haven't watched any of my Payday 3 videos, or if you're subscribed, you probably have not seen any of them. But I did start with Payday 3. I loved Payday 2, and I played a bit of Payday 1. And it was some of my favorite games growing up. And this video is not really going to be structured at all. I just kind of want to go over the things that I feel like are the biggest, I guess, factors as to what made Payday 3 fail. And keep in mind, a lot of these really are just super avoidable, if not all of them really. The first thing that comes to mind is the Disasterous launch. Obviously, people know about the launch of Payday 3. People who aren't even into gaming, they'll know about the launch of Payday 3. It is literally one of the most disastrous launches. And when you include the fact that Almer, before its release, said that he doubts the game is going to go offline, and it just ends up being one of the most infamous quotes of all time.
Mr. Dr. Pepper says, since the game is online only, what happens if the servers go down? Well, they won't.
Because it was literally offline for so long. For me, I hadn't experienced anything like that up to that point. Like nothing where I literally just couldn't log into the game. I couldn't get past I forgot, it was like an error message screen. And then after about the first week, it got a little bit better, but still months after launch, there was a couple times where I would receive that error message, not able to log in or whatever. And it's not like there weren't other issues at the time that people didn't notice. Trust me, people definitely noticed basically all of the issues at launch. But this definitely sort of exacerbated it and made them 10 times more glaring than they probably would have been, because no one is able to log into the game for about the first week. So that kills literally all momentum, all hype within the first week. And also something that didn't really help at the time, and this isn't these guys' fault, so like don't go hating on them. A lot of the reviews, the early reviews that released around this time, obviously they had no clue that the game was going to be offline for as long as it was. So it just kind of ended up being like a bad look for the game and for the creators who made reviews, because a lot of them were actually generally optimistic. And even though you can sort of criticize like some of their stances on certain things that you would have seen problems through, you can't criticize them on not being aware or not knowing that something that catastrophic would happen as soon as they released their review. But again, it just ended up being this whole messy storm of just things that all went wrong at the same time. And Payday 3 has been the same for a while. It's just been on life support. There's just been no way that they can gain back any of the initial interest they had with this game because of the many hurdles that they've had to overcome with the mistakes they've made. I guess one of the other really big ones was the ammo funnel debacle. I've already made a video on this. Trust me, it is not what you think. I actually don't think it's that big of a deal. But in the, I guess in the broader like context of Payday 3's failure, and again, it's just like something not going over well with the community, and there's a lot of mixed feelings about it. With Payday 3 post-launch, they needed nothing to be sort of up in the air. People didn't like it, kind of liked it. They needed to hit everything out of the park in order to gain back at least a crumb of the success that they had like near launch. And although I feel like at the time, people really just wanted to see Payday 3 crash and burn. And so like something as small as ammo funnel being changed, which to me like had no bearing on like the actual gameplay of the game. Even though that's my stance, the overall stance with everyone is that they're just generally unhappy with the type of updates they made, with the type of changes they made, with the lack of frequency in the updates. This is mostly, generally, it's just Starbreeze's fault. Like, it's not our fault that they can't put out content in a timely manner and that they can't get it like, I don't know, console certified. But it's not our fault that they can't get out content in a timely fashion. And like, even with something such as the events, the very first event, Mask Mania, is just a catastrophic failure. It's like every step of the way. There were generally some good updates within Payday 3 during this time, but they're all just sort of overshadowed by this dark cloud of them constantly trying to make improvements to the game, but then them releasing stuff that just seems sort of, I don't want to say half-assed, because I don't think it's half-assed, but when you constantly release updates that are not feature complete, it feels like there's good parts and there's bad parts to them. And stuff like Mask Mania, where literally some masks, we literally were not able to acquire them, and they just had to sort of add it to the game later on for us to be able to buy. When you constantly do stuff like that, and it just feels like every update, whether it's a DLC update, whether it's just a regular update, and it feels like every single one of them, there's goods and there's bads to them. You can't really gain back any of that traction because you're not just hitting home run after home run, making each update make the game better and better. Instead, it's like there's 2 steps forward, 1 step back, one step forward, two steps back kind of thing. And I'm gonna be the one to say it. Payday 3's biggest issues were never something like content or like there not being enough maps, because there was only 8 heists in the game when it launched. And although that is small, I will admit, if I go back to something like Payday 2, I really can just pick like 5 or 6 maps and then play those for like 100 hours if I really want to, because the game as a whole is just so in-depth and complete. And I understand the argument that it's had updates for 10 plus years at this point, an argument which I completely disagree with, because if you're making a new game, you're meant to build off of the foundation of your older games and the mistakes you've learned from the older games, not revert back and then have to relearn those things again. That to me doesn't make any sense. But anyways, now I'm just rambling, and that's kind of besides the point anyways. My main overall point is that I don't really think that Payday 3 can come back. Like, not every game is going to be a No Man's Sky, but I don't blame people for not wanting to give the game a second chance, or to just wanting to watch videos on it explaining the downfall of Payday 3, but, you know, not experiencing it for themselves. I completely understand that, because there's too many games nowadays that release. There's like tens of thousands of games that release in a month on Steam alone. To be spending your time waiting for a game to get good or to have updates and stuff, there's so many other games out there to play to occupy your time with that you don't really have to sit there and wait around for a game to get good. You can just go play something else. Also, that's something I hate, was when people are like, oh, well, the game has had updates now and now it's really good and people don't want to come back to it, and you people just like to stay negative. That is like the most short-sighted, dumb answer of all time, because it's like, if the devs behind the game just made a feature complete, completely polished, and a genuinely like really good game at launch, no one would be talking about this, and it would just have probably like a mild success. I don't think Payday 3 would have ever been as good as Payday 2, but I do feel like some of the success it had at launch, they could have kept. It's just, I don't really blame people for not wanting to give Payday 3 another chance, and in all honesty, they're not required to. And you know what makes the situation a whole lot worse is that they recently just canceled their Project Baxter, which is going to be their D&D style game, and oh my gosh, that hurts on so many levels. Not because I was like expecting to like Project Baxter. I might have liked it, who knows, I might have not. It's just, that's besides the point. It's the fact that they pulled resources away from Payday 3 to put on that project. I don't care what they say, they definitely did that. You know, we all seen the CEO like interview with Matt Sewell, who went on stream to answer a lot of the questions that players had from that Q3 report all the way back in, what was it, 2020 or something. And although at the time I really did appreciate the, I guess, sort of interview, or I don't know what you really want to call that, I guess intervention of the community that Matt Sewell did, especially because he answered one of my questions first, which was how was morale in the office. And I don't know, I kind of just took it at face value, but I can't imagine that at this time, or at this entire time in the past like 2 to 3 years, the morale at Starbreeze is anything but just not great. But I mean, yeah, there just goes more wasted dev time, more wasted resources. But genuinely, I don't know what it is. Like, I don't know if they lost a lot of talent over the years, or if it's like a leadership issue, because the team that made Payday 3, it just doesn't feel like the team that made Payday 2. And for me, again, that's just, it's very disappointing, because Payday 2 was one of my favorite games in my early teen years, and to see the route the Payday 3 went, even though I covered it a lot, even though I wanted it to be successful, it just didn't end up being that in the end. And yeah, I don't know, this, for me, it's a sort of a goodbye for Payday 3. I'm never playing Payday 3 again. I can almost guarantee you that. They'd have to unlaunch the game, refund everyone, go and work on it for like 2 years, and then come back and launch it. There's no way on God's green earth they're doing that. So for me, I'm completely done with Payday 3. I might play a little bit of Payday 2 from time to time, but for the most part, I'm just sort of done with this franchise, because I doubt with the current leadership at Starbreeze that they can make it like what I grew up with. But yeah, I don't know. This is a sort of ramble video. This is not something like, I usually sort of structure bullet points to go over what I want to talk about. This is me just sort of rambling and getting my raw feelings out there on the current state with Payday 3 and how I'm really just sort of done with the franchise at this point. But yeah, that's it for me. Let me know what y'all think about Payday 3. Let me know when's the last time you played it. Let me know if you really didn't play it at all, if you really just watched videos on it. Because I know a lot of people are out there are like that. They watched a lot of videos and they're like, oh, this is kind of entertaining to see what's happening with it, but it doesn't look like the kind of game I'll play. You know, let me know where you sit on the fence. For me, this is probably the last time I'll ever be talking about Payday 3 on this channel, because I only like to talk about games I really enjoy. So yeah, I don't know. Anyways, that's it for me. I'll see you next time.